All right. Welcome back, guys. We're talking about NBA. We have Sohan, and we got Justin. So, let me know, guys, what's going on with the NBA, especially after this All-Star break? How are you guys feeling about the season? How are you guys feeling about the teams right now?
Well, one of the biggest things right now is pretty much the streak of Houston and who's taking over on the East side. So Houston's still doing this thing. I think they just won their last game. They're on a 15-game win streak. And then we got one of the nastiest crossovers within the past decade with James Harden with his signature step back and completely abolishing ankles.
You know what's like crazy about that is that he's so slow with it though.
He's so slow with it.
Yeah,
he's
he's like so slow with it, but like it gets everybody.
I think like his defenders are so terrified of him. Like if you don't play up on him, then he's gonna score. If you play up on him, he's gonna drive. I don't think James Harden's that fast. I think people need to stop guarding him so damn loose. Like put a defender on him, kind of shut his ass down. But that's why, dude. I don't know how he died like that. I don't know how that happened.
No, I would have. Did you see the meme? The Fortnite meme?
The Fortnite meme was great.
It's on the page.
It's on the page.
But yeah, like I agree with that. Like he kind of just. I don't know if he put his body into the dude.
No,
or
he didn't touch him. He didn't touch him. It was just a smooth
Completely
step back, and dude tried to go one way, and James Harden went the other way, and dude just died. So. That's that. We got that out of that, and then also one of the big things that we saw this week was Cleveland taking an L to Philly. We're not coming at LeBron right now. We're talking about Cleveland, okay?
But LeBron's the best of all time.
Shut up! Don't do that. We're not those people.
We have sensitive people out there right now.
Seriously. But so pretty much Philly pretty much waxed LeBron, even though LeBron's been dropped. I think he's had consistent 30-point games. The most he's had in like the past like 3 seasons.
He's been averaging
2 seasons.
a triple-double this past month. So yeah, he's been having a career month.
First time in his career that he's ever done that, right?
Yeah, so we're looking at that right now, and that was such a big deal because with the LeBron sweepstakes coming up after this season, and a lot of people not necessarily thinking that LeBron's going to be returning back to Cleveland. One of the big spots on the East, at least, for him to land would be Philly. Philly's out here loving the hell out of LeBron, making billboards. Like Dan said, you got a couple billboards up, and another thing that people notice. And honestly, I think. And I'm gonna ask you this as well, but I think athletes know what they're doing with what they're wearing. Like when Kelly Oubre rocked his Supreme sleeve, you know what you're doing. You're trying to be swag, you're trying to make a wave. And even with the kicks, like if you follow Slam Dunk, I follow Slam Dunk on Instagram. Shout out Slam Dunk. But I follow them on Instagram, and what they'll do like kicks of the week or whatever, and they'll do like three pairs of shoes that players are wearing. A lot of times it's funny because pretty much Nick Young wings the shit every week. But they'll show like such and such is wearing the retro T-Max, such and such is wearing the retro KGs, and then they'll even show like the newer shoes. Like Kyrie will have some nasty ass color scheme on his Kyries, but with LeBron has he has Zoom Soldiers. He has his shoes are really fucking cool. All his shoes are always cool. Like I can't say shit about like they're dope as hell. But LeBron's in Cleveland. LeBron's wearing red and blue shoes. He's not wearing wine and gold shoes. He's not wearing white shoes. He's not wearing gray shoes. He's not wearing anything that's necessarily reflective of Cleveland.
Subliminal messaging.
Yeah, and like you said, I athletes know when they're wearing. They're not just I'm just gonna wear these and gonna do this. No, LeBron knows what he's doing. So it was kind of a thing, and I don't know if he's trying to troll people or not, but it said a lot that he was wearing that color scheme, playing Philly, had a great game in Philly, and even like one of the Philly players, like they fouled the shit out of him and they tried to hold on. I was like, hold on, LeBron, are you okay, LeBron? You know what I mean?
Right.
So they're out there loving him. So what you think about that though? Like I feel like that I don't think that was just. I feel like he did that on purpose.
I mean, like it makes all the sense in the world for him to go to Philly. I mean, like they have Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, their core is ready. They just need.
I really love Sarge.
Like
Sarge
is cold. They got shooters, JJ Redick. They got all the pieces. It's just missing that one superstar. They get LeBron. I think they're automatically in the finals next year.
I don't care who gets over to the East. It doesn't matter. You have these two superstars and Embiid and Ben Simmons, and you have these role players that are so good. Like these are quality ass role players. You call JJ Redick a role player when he was starting in the Clips. You know what I mean? So, and then you throw LeBron in there. It's a wrap.
I got like a little bit off topic for this, but it's like, you know, which brings up the subject that tanking is actually not that bad.
I actually was just about to ask you guys about it.
Tanking is not that bad actually, because if it could lead to something like this, you know, I don't see why, you know, teams don't do it. Like, you know, of course I'll support tanking. I support the Bulls tanking right now. So like, you know, it makes all the sense in the world, you know.
Well, I will say that I think Adam Silver just came out with a memo to the teams to say, hey, we're not supporting tanking. But you're saying, like, you're a fan of the NBA, so would you mind it if you were watching and you're watching your favorite team just
I don't mind it because Philly's a perfect example of that. I mean, like, they're about to build a championship team already. It took like about 5 years, but they did it like, even with mistakes, like they've had like bad picks like Jahlil Okafor and like Michael Carter Williams and like all these other picks. So like, you know, they've done it with bad picks before, and like, you know, it's just, I don't know, it's just like it's something that's good like for teams that are trying to get back into contention, you know. And I don't see how you can monitor tanking. Like, I don't know how you could, like, you know, unless they like come out like to the media and be like,
hey, we're tanking.
You know, like, other than that, like, I don't see how you can monitor it besides like, okay, they're just a bad team, you know.
I bring that question back to you. How do you view it?
So
are you tanking?
ESPN, they had dropped a stat saying that the last 8 teams in the NBA are pretty much tied for dead last in the NBA. So what that tells you is there's a lot of teams that are going through this process of going through tanking. And there's certain teams that you can really see that are tanking, and there's certain teams that are just bad. One of the teams that are just bad would be like Brooklyn. Brooklyn is just bad. They traded off that pick to Boston, and Boston traded that pick to Cleveland. So they don't have any real reason to be tanking right now because they don't have a great draft pick in this draft. So they're playing, you know, they're actually playing. But guys like the Bulls, and I didn't really think about it, but when they brought up the big power forward, what's his name?
Marketing?
Not Marketing, the dude with the what the hell is his name? The big retarded looking one.
Felicio?
Yes.
Oh, Felicio, yeah.
So when they brought up Felicio, and I like Felicio, but when they re-signed him, I'm like, man, that
4 years for like what, 80 million or something?
Yeah,
like
dude. Like I'm looking, I'm like,
what?
Felicio?
Yeah.
Are we really doing that with Felicio? And the more that I think about it, and they'll say like, oh, one of the ways they'll do it is say, oh, we're developing this player.
If Felicio's getting 4 years, 80 mil, where can I sign up?
Great.
like,
it's like
who's gonna take him?
Felicio's not bad. That's the thing. Like, Felicio's not bad, but he's not at that caliber where he's shitting on D League.
Like,
G League.
So I mean, just a quick comment, like, if they would have done that maybe for like Omer Sheik a couple of years back, I could understand that. That's a developmental player. You drafted him, he was on your bench. But Felicio's, like you said, D League or G League guy. I don't see any team coming for him.
He's a G League guy, and at the most, you know, he's coming off the bench, but you know, he's really putting in these crazy games with the Bulls.
He's a very energy type based player, but it's like, it's bad because like it's bad energy because he's like a poor man's Joakim Noah.
Right.
Like that,
and you already have Lopez.
Yeah, you already have Lopez on there.
And so we look at other teams like Sacramento, where we don't hear anything, see anything. De'Aaron Fox, he's quietly having not a great season, but an okay season, a rookie
Buddy
season.
Hield is up there, not doing anything.
Not doing a thing. Like you have these two high draft prospects there. Teams like Phoenix, where you still have Devin Booker dropping 30, 40 on people's heads and stuff.
You know what's also kind of like scary now, because like this is my also fear for the Bulls is that like they pick up in the draft Trae Young from Oklahoma, or like a shooter like that, because everybody thinks that next shooter is going to be like Curry, but that's really rare. I think
people don't understand the kind of player that Stephen Curry is. Like it's not just the shooting aspect. It's the ability to
score.
It's the ability to score. The ability to just run the offense that kind of way. Just because you can shoot doesn't mean you're Stephen Curry.
He's definitely a one of a kind player.
Yeah.
Because like they try to put that on Buddy Hield.
Look at him.
Jimmer is supposed to be that before Steph.
Yep.
They pick
doesn't
these
work
shooters
like
up.
that.
And like,
I mean, you even see, and I know this is a little off cuff, but you even see Parker. What is
Parker.
it? Yeah, he was
Jabari?
supposed to be the next LeBron.
Yeah,
The one
Jabari
who won-
Parker,
Yeah,
yeah.
Jabari Parker. He was supposed to be the next LeBron. It doesn't happen like that.
no, so like tanking could go one way or the other, but I mean, like more than likely, if you're like Philly and you actually know what you guys are doing, with how you want to build it, you'll be fine.
One thing with Mark Cuban, because Mark Cuban got fined
Fine,
for
yeah.
saying that, literally saying that he's tanking, and I like just to actually.
Mark Cuban doesn't care.
But to answer your question, because I didn't answer it. Right. Yeah. But no, with Mark Cuban, he's like, yeah, we're tanking, and I think for me personally, I don't have a problem with teams tanking, and I don't have a problem with teams being open about tanking. If we as consumers still choose to go and watch these games, like Philly fans, Phillies, they still get their money. Bulls are always sold out. If we as fans are okay with them tanking, as long as we had I don't think teams are just tanking just to be bad. They're clearly tanking to try to get a better
Strategy.
setup. Yeah. And then not everybody doesn't tank like Philly. Like Philly fucking tanked. You know what I'm saying? Like they said we're going to be the worst team. Certain teams
but
like
that
tanking
pays off.
Yeah, it pays off. But to certain teams, tanking doesn't have the same
The
thing.
Bulls can't do that because they actually have a good, legit core.
Yeah,
Like
but that's the thing. Like with the Bulls, that's why I'm saying like tanking is different for everyone.
Yeah.
Tanking for Philly is being god awful for a decade. Tanking for the Chicago Bulls is trying to have a mediocre team, but we're not. But what we're not gonna do is put money towards the superstar to try to go to that next level.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna stay mediocre. We're gonna be happy with being mediocre for 2, 3, 4 seasons. Get our money, our salary cap together, and once we have a big boom on the free agent market, or we have a crazy draft class, that's when we'll make that move to try to go to that next level.
So can I ask one last question?
Mm-hmm.
You guys both agree that tanking is okay in a sense. It
to
depends
a
if it
degree.
really pays off.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
is where you're coming at. So I mean, I think in this decade, primarily you've seen like a revamp of the Lakers. Well, Lakers are kind of still getting there, but you're definitely seeing it in Boston. Like Boston has definitely did that recap, but I wouldn't call it tanking per se. And now you see Philly's on their way up, and they actually tanked to get there. So as a fan, do you see it as two different things, or do you see one being better than the other, like that perspective of like Boston versus Philly
Well, in
revamp?
Boston's case, it just got lucky because Isaiah Thomas became a superstar, and then they found a good core around him. They just got really lucky.
I mean, they had some good draft picks too.
Yeah.
And a good coach.
Yeah.
They picked after Doc Rivers.
But you see, Brad Stevens wasn't considered a good coach before they
At that
had the
time.
the winning seasons. They actually were trying to get rid of Brad Stevens before they started to win and turn it around. So he wasn't considered a good coach. I mean, it's just like it depends on the situation of the team. You're not Philly's an extreme case where it's like they had literally nothing, and it was even crazier that they started to tank right after they were like one game away from reaching the Eastern Conference Finals that year. After they beat the Bulls and they played the Boston Celtics that year. And then they went to Game 7 and lost, and then went straight to tanking. Like, I've never seen a team do that before. Like,
In basketball, per se.
decisive.
Yeah.
They made the decision. I mean, like I said, for certain teams, if you're it goes back to that fair weather fan versus diehard fan. With the Bulls, I see what the Bulls are doing. Like for me, it's a better thing for me that they are deciding to tank versus doing what they've been doing for the past 2-3 years, which is overpaying players, grabbing the wrong players, taking the wrong steps and putting money into these wrong players to try to be
indecisive.
good. Being decisive and being upfront with your fan base is the thing that really kind of smooths that out. Because, like I said, Philly came out to the public. They said, "Hey, we're gonna suck," and the next thing from there is just. If you're lying to your fan base and you're saying, "Hey guys, we're trying, but it's not working out," that's bullshit. We can see that you're clearly overpaying this guy, not picking up this guy, and doing all of these things. But when you're open about it, it kind of lowers those expectations. Like Roy Ass was saying, it lowers your expectations and it makes the hit a lot worse. And in the meantime, it allows you to look at these other teams. My last point, the only thing about this is what it does for the NBA in itself. For the team, it's not terrible, but what it does for the NBA in itself, it makes it got damn near unwatchable. When I'm watching stuff on like Watch ESPN or CB or whatever the fuck comes on, I'm watching these games and it's like, Jesus Christ, the only games that matter is between the toss up of 4 or 5 teams in the East and 4 or 5 teams on the West. If it's not a cross conference matchup and it's not a matchup between the top 5 teams, I don't want to watch it. And you'll get to a point where Washington playing Golden State, they made it a big deal. Like, who the fuck cares? Right. No one cares about Washington. Jesus Christ, I don't care about Bradley. Kevin Durant returns back to DC and drops this. Like, who the fuck cares? No one cares. This game doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Golden State's gonna do their thing on the East. Washington's gonna fucking lose and not make it to the conference finals.
Yeah,
and that's the end of it.
You know,
so it makes the NBA a worse watch. And I understand why Adam Silver is like, you guys need to figure this shit out. Yeah. But it's a real battle. I think it's something that they'll probably reach within the the next collective bargaining agreement, and they'll try to get a better grasp on what's tanking, what's not tanking, what's allowed, what is allowed.
And you have any last point on it?
Well, when taking, I guess what a solution, well, there was this, thing I was reading, an article where it was, they were considering a playoff for the losing teams, right? And, basically they'll come up with draft picks that way, you know? And that could be a great solution.
That's interesting.
That would be, you get to watch a second playoff, you see more games, I think it'll make the league a lot of money that way, too, a lot more, watchable and whatnot. The teams aren't, as worse, and you actually are not tanking. You have something to play for. Afterwards.
And when Evan Silver was talking about that, one of the things was making it where you're not going to get rewarded for this tanking. You can be bad, but you're not going to be rewarded for being this bad, because you're doing stuff like that really put something on it.
The lottery is broken.
Yeah, the lottery is terrible. They have to fix it.
You know what would be interesting is if you push up, maybe you make you know how they have summer league?
Yeah.
Maybe push that up with stakes, actually.
Stakes,
kind of determine, you're in the top bottom, 4 teams in each division. You play these games and you determine your draft pick, kind of. Yeah. That'd be interesting. I think that'd be really, as a fan, you'd sit there and be like, oh, my team better be the best of the worst.
Yeah.
So anyway, but that'll wrap up our NBA talk. Just know you can tank as long as you communicate. All right. We'll see. We'll be back.